You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholics, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a trunk, just like Jim. It's more than life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag
For what?
with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club, buy some bottles, and press them guns. It's more than life.
Fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Hello, everyone. This is a Saints and Appetizers podcast, and I am Ethan Emmons. And today is, ironically enough, more appetizers than Saints news. And today we're going to be talking about UFC 276, and we're going to be doing picks. And I want to get this on film today. I want to get my picks out there, so I'll have receipts of it before I do a review video later. So I kind of want to get into that, so I'll have that so I can do a review video later. So let's get into that right now. And I want to just do the main card because I usually don't really watch the prelims or early prelims. Usually just watch the main card. So the first bout or matchup would be Pedro Munhoz and Sean O'Malley, and just going to be really just kind of a quick video because just kind of get that out there so we can kind of go back and look at that later on like maybe a reaction video. So it's Pedro Munhoz versus Sean O'Malley, and I'm not really on the Sean O'Malley hype train yet. Like I've seen all of his fights and seen him lose to Marlon Vera, the only like ranked fighter he lost, and a lot of people kind of dispute whether that was a legitimate loss and whatnot. And I think it was. I think that was really the only great fighter that he fought, and he did get TKO'd, whether it was an ankle or a leg injury or not. He still lost. And Pedro Munhoz is the next only ranked fighter he fought. I think he's ranked number 9 in the bantamweight rankings. And so this would be the first real challenge that he's fought since he lost to Marlon Vera. So I think I'm going to be taking Pedro Munhoz in this fight because I think Pedro Munhoz has a really well-rounded skill set. And Pedro Munhoz, he in his last 4 of his last 5 fights hasn't been overly impressive. He's lost 4 of the last 5, but he has kind of a history of derailing fighters' hype train because his last big win was again I think 6 fights ago. He knocked out Cody Garbrandt, so there may be a chance he knocks off Sean O'Malley like that and maybe derails his hype train. So I think I'm going to go with Pedro Munhoz on this one. So maybe he knocks him out, and he's also got 8 submissions in his career as well. So he has, I think I'd say he probably has a better submission ground game than Sean O'Malley. So he can beat him in a variety of ways. Okay, with the second fight on the main card, we have Robbie Lawler versus Brian Barberena. And I've probably seen like every Robbie Lawler's fight in his career. And I've been watching UFC probably since all the way back in 2005, first UFC Ultimate Fighter. So I've seen like all of his fights. He's been fighting since he was like 21 years old. I've seen all those fights, and so we've been watching him for a long time. And then Brian Barberena, I've pretty much watched every card, so can't really remember any of his fights that stand out to me. There's so many fighters now; it's hard to keep up with them. So, looking back at some of his fights on 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 his fight tallies that he has, none of them stand out. The last four of his fights were just all decision wins, and then two, you go back, he got knocked out on two of the last three losses. He got KO'd, but he I think both of these guys are kind of stand-up fighters, and I think this was kind of set up to be kind of a stand-up war kind of fight, and I think this maybe has potential to maybe be the best fight on the card, because you got two guys that just like to fight it out and stand up war kind of fight. But I think it maybe is even kind of set up for Robbie Lawler to get some kind of devastating knockout, and maybe could go either way with that kind of happening. And I think I'm going to go with Robbie Lawler, and possibly by knockout. So I think I'm going to go with Robbie Lawler on that. And I definitely I've heard of Brian Barberina's name. I'm sure I've seen his fights, but none of them really stand out to me. So I think I'm going to go with Brian Barberina or Robbie Lawler for this one. So moving on to the third fight on the card, we got Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira. And I think most Sean Strickland's most notable for right now is probably his mouth more than anything, is because I watched the press conference this morning of Sean Strickland and Israel Donajee, and how they seem to be talking to each other more than they were talking to their opponents, Alex Pereira and Jared Cannonier. So going back and forth at each other. So and then Sean Strickland, he has all kinds of stuff talking about political things in the news. So he seems to talk more than he does anything. But I think there's a good chance that this could be considered, whoever wins this fight between Sean Strickland and Alex Pereira could be maybe a middleweight title contender bout, maybe, depending on who wins. Because Sean Strickland is on let's see here, he's on let's see, yeah, a 6-fight win streak. So he could easily, if he wins in impressive fashion or just wins at all, could be set up for the winner of this middleweight bout between Israel Donajee and Jared Cannonier. And Alex Pereira, he came into the UFC with only one loss, and has won his first 2 fights in the UFC as well. So I definitely think this is a very interesting fight. But I think I'm going to definitely go with Sean Strickland, just because he's the UFC veteran in this one. But I think Alex Pereira could definitely surprise people, because he's an impressive striker in his own right, and I think people could be he could surprise people as well, because he's definitely an impressive striker, and I wouldn't be surprised if he knocked Sean Strickland out as well, just because during the press conference, Sean Strickland seemed to have a lot more focus on what Israel Donajee had going on than what Alex Pereira was going on. But I still think I'm going to go with the veteran Sean Strickland here. And then next up is the co-main event, Alexander Volkov versus Matt Holloway. And these guys, they started out very respectful in the press conference, but there towards the end they kind of started filling it up a little bit. Maybe that's because they were trying to sell the fight a little bit more. But I don't know. These guys have already faced each other twice. The first one was pretty pretty clear cut that Alexander beat Holloway for the belt. And then I don't know, in the second fight, a lot of people, majority of people think Holloway got robbed in the second fight. And I don't know, these guys seem pretty evenly matched. You know, I think Alexander Volkov in the second fight got dropped a couple times, and really nothing too interesting other than that happened in the second fight, which leads a lot of people to believe Holloway won. So I don't know. I think this is maybe the most interesting fight on the card, and there's a lot of questions to be answered in this fight for a trilogy fight. So I don't know. I think I'm most interested to see what happens in this title fight, which is surprising for a fight that people have already seen twice for expectations for a trilogy fight. And so I think I'm going to go for Max Holloway, and I don't think you can really call that an upset, even though he's lost the first two fights. So I think I'm going to go with Max Holloway, and he's saying he's gonna finish Alexander Volkov, which I think that's pretty funny, seeing how he's already lost twice. But still, I think I'm going to go with Max Holloway to win this. And now for the main event, the middleweight champion Israel Donizet against Jared Cannonier, and this is I think Israel Donizet is coming in to this fight in great shape. He weighed in at like 183.5 pounds, which is very impressive to come in such below the weight limit. So that means he must be in phenomenal shape for this. And I hear talks about him saying that he wants to put on a show. He wants to finish Jared Cannonier, this and that, which you hear a lot of talk about this and that, because I think in quite a few of his last fights, he's just gone to decision. A lot of people saying that he's been boring, this and that, and I don't know. Will be interesting to see what he does. And then Jared Cannonier, I remember quite a few of his fights pretty vividly. He's just kind of a knockout artist, has great takedown defense, and is able to get back up when he gets taken down. And really, the only person that's given him any trouble recently was Robert Whitaker, and which Israel Donizet has pretty much dominated the last two times he's fought him for the belt that he's faced. That Robert Whitaker's faced Israel Donizet for the belt. So I don't know if that's any indication that Israel Donizet should be able to handle Jared Cannonier at all. I think Jared Cannonier is probably the most powerful opponent that Israel Donizet has faced in a while when it comes to terms of knockout ability, because Cannonier used to fight at heavyweight and has knockouts at heavyweight. So I don't know. It's a pretty intriguing matchup, and seeing how Donizet only loss came when he moved up in weight class. He got beat by Jan Blachowicz, and that was due to just getting bullied and held down by wrestling, not because he got knocked out. So I think this will be and also a pretty interesting matchup because of that. But I don't know. I don't really believe that Donizet is gonna try to put on a show and really do anything risky to put himself at risk to get caught or knocked out by Cannonier. I just think Cannonier is too bulky, too strong, has that used to be heavyweight frame that he'll just end up getting picked apart by Donizet, like we've seen by so many fighters in the past, that he's going to probably point him and maybe just wear him down towards the later rounds, maybe in the fourth round, and just pick him apart and maybe get a TKO at the end, or maybe just point fight him and get a unanimous decision. So I think I'm going to go with Adonijay in this one and have him retain. So when we go down the list of my fights, so I'm going to go with Munez in the first fight, Robbie Lawler in the second fight, Strickland in the third fight, Max Holloway with the upset, and then Adizrael Janajay in the main event. And so that's what I have. That's all I have for UFC 276. And hopefully I am right on most of my picks. And if not, maybe you guys can do a little bit better. And if you guys have like any arguments with my picks or any better better picks that you think are going to be right, give me some comments of what you think about that, and let me know if you have like some different picks or opinions about some of the other fights. And kind of, yeah, another interesting fight kind of in the preliminaries is Jim Miller and Donald Cerrone. I think that one could go either way because both of those guys are getting so old. Like, maybe let me know what you guys think about that one. And so help me out with this new stream. I'm just trying to get started. I'll hopefully in some other videos coming up soon, I can maybe give you some new updates about some New Orleans Saints news, some Pelicans news with Zion getting re-signed, and help me out and like, share, comment, and that'd be great. I'll see you next time, everybody. Thanks.